I'm delighted to say that right now in the studio we're joined by Rudik, Ukrainian MP, liberal Ukrainian MP, I should say. Welcome to talk. Very nice to see you.
It's nice to see you, Mike, as well.
We've not met in person. We've spoken many times on Zoom. You've been in London for a few days. Tell us what life is currently like. I think people are not sure still even what it's like in Ukraine.
Well, Mike, it is really tough. The majority of our energy system has been destroyed by Russian missiles and drones. And we have limitations on electricity and energy outages. So when I was leaving Kiev just a couple of days ago, we only had electricity for 4 hours. And it's, I can tell you, it's a very different situation between when you are in a bomb shelter with the electricity on and the lights on and kids have their laptops charged or phones charged, and when it's completely dark. It's very hard because Russia continues to attack us almost every single night. Just this night when I woke up to the news that 21 Iranian drones has been sent our way. And the most terrifying thing in Ukraine is even when you're living in a peaceful city, you're not fighting at the front, there is no guarantee that when you go to bed, you will wake up in the morning. This is the most frustrating part, and you do not know when it would end. And you're only thinking, okay, what I can do personally to help my country win and for this nightmare to stop.
And it must be really stressful to go to bed in those kind of terms where you don't know if there's going to be a missile hitting the building or a shell, somehow coming near where you live. It must be really hard.
It is, Mike. I can also share with you this personal story because on January 2nd, there was a missile hit on Kiev, and the missile hit near the home where I live. And I was at home at that moment, and I have witnessed how the windows were pulled out of their frames and the glass was everywhere and the attack continued. It was really tough, and at that moment, just at that moment, 5 people lost their lives and more than 200 families lost their homes. And it was just one attack. And they are happening over and over and over. And there is not quite a view on when this will be over, because we are begging for more air defense systems, we are begging for more missiles, for more weapons, so we can end the war and win the war, but the weapons are coming in a very slow pace, and sometimes between a political promise that is made by some of our allies and the moment when Ukrainian soldier is getting the weapons in his or her hand, it could be like 6 months. And every day during those 6 months, people are dying, both at the front and at their homes.
And when you get the weapons, presumably people need to be trained on them perhaps, and that takes a little more of a delay as well?
Yes and no. So with some weapons like fighter jets, we need the training. For many of those, we have already people trained who are just sitting there waiting until they arrive. So we need to work on the logistics together with our partners on the same levels we are working on, like just getting the money, the political promise, and then the weapons in. And it is critical.
Because that's the problem, isn't it? Because a lot of people in this country have been asking the question, how much more money and how much longer does this go on for? But at the same time, it would make more sense to give you more at the moment to finish it, wouldn't it?
Our plea has been the same. Give us enough so we can end the war and win the war. Because you see, we have people who are ready to fight, who are fighting. And you have seen how effective and efficient with the limited resources that we have, we were. And this is why, again, it makes, you're absolutely right, it makes all kinds of senses to give us enough so we can win the war and send a strong message to all the authoritarian regimes all over the world who are watching, and they're watching very precisely what's happening, that no, you cannot fight a democracy, you cannot annex territory of another country and get away with it, and you will be stopped. You will be stopped both by sanctions and by providing this country with weapons. There is one more thing that I want to mention here about money, and you are absolutely right, it always comes to the question of money and how much money will more be spent on Ukraine. So I absolutely understand the cost of living crisis that happens in the countries of our allies, and that war is hard on everyone. But I think the fair solution to that is to use Russian money that are being frozen, and right now they are located at the countries of our partners, at the democratic countries. In total, it's $500 billion. And right now what is used, it only is a percentage on that, like the interest that has been allocated during the year. So my call is, well, go ahead and make sure that we use this whole amount instead of taking money from the people who are actually supporting us. Let Putin pay for the war and for the rebuild of Ukraine.
Right. And when you say you don't have enough electricity for any more than 4 hours a day, is that because the electricity supply is in short supply, or is it because the generators have all been blown up? What's the reason for that?
Over the last 6 months, Russia has been deliberately attacking precisely our infrastructure objects and energy infrastructure. They have destroyed the majority of it. The unfortunate thing is there is no quick fix for that. You cannot just build, like in 3 months to build an electric plant, right? And so, yes, I have a diesel generator at home, and this is what I've been surviving with. And we are trying right now to prepare for the winter by making sure we buy generators for hospitals and kindergartens. So at least the most critical parts are secured. But if in summer it is already that dramatic, would you imagine what would happen in winter? And winters in Ukraine are really hard.
Yes, of course. And when I saw some footage a few months ago, probably now, of places like Kharkiv, which have been attacked relentlessly, really, and almost completely destroyed as cities, I mean, are they even capable of being rebuilt, do you think? Or when could you start to do something like that?
You know, the rebuild started after the first attack, and we have seen people being able to survive in a very dramatic situations and still rebuild and continue living. So the rebuild is happening, so people who lost their homes would be able to have new homes, that the bridges that were destroyed will rebuild, that the roads and the energy infrastructure is in constant rebuild. But the main question is, we rebuild that, they attack us again. So the solution is of getting enough of the air defense systems to at least prevent people getting killed, and then to protect the infrastructure that is being under the attack. It's a main question again that right now, 2.5 years into full-scale invasion, Russia is still able to manufacture the shells, the weapons, the missiles. So we need to look closer at the sanctions and how are they working, because
they're not really working,
they are not really working. How is it possible for Iran, for example, to continue manufacture drones? They have been under sanctions for a long time right now, right? So there is someone who is trading with them, right? So that's an important question that we hope that the democratic leaders will take a closer look at, and we are working on our level on that as well.
Well, there is a problem, isn't there? Because there's a connection now between Russia, Iran and Hamas.
And North Korea.
In Israel and North Korea. So there is this kind of, I mean, it's called the axis of evil, but I mean, that is definitely a thing now, because obviously Hamas are using all kinds of Iranian-made missiles and drones and things, as are Hezbollah in Lebanon as well.
The terrorists are being supported by Iran, and there have been so many proofs of that. Russia is supported by Iran, and they have very close collaboration. You know, we are calling those Iranian drones Shaheds Iranian because it has been confirmed by different international spectators that they were manufactured in Iran and then transported to Russia. And right now, when they have additional deal with North Korea, we don't know what kind of weapons are being delivered to Russia, but we can suppose that it is not something good for us. So my question is again to the democratic world of when this critical decision of switching from helping Ukraine fight to letting us win the war, when this decision will be made. Because it's again not only about Ukraine, it's about the fighting against this alliance of axis of evil, and they need to be stopped, and we are here to stop them. Just give us the means to do that.
Yes, and NATO came out with some interesting stuff this week, didn't they? NATO said Ukraine can't join NATO because it's too corrupt. Were you surprised they said that?
Yes, honestly, yes, because we are making huge progress in terms of the reforms that, first of all, it allowed us to really quickly go from the candidacy to European Union to actually starting the negotiations. And right now, lots of discussions on different areas is going on. But it has been 2 years, and we were able to pass these laws in the parliament, and right now they are being implemented. And European Union has made very good. They said that we made very good progress on that. So I'm surprised that NATO is saying that. I know that we are not perfect, but we are on a very good track in progress.
Well, not every country is perfect, I suppose you could say. Have you got any concerns about the American election coming up? Because Donald Trump obviously is somebody who is perhaps less keen on continuing to fund the war.
He made quite a couple of statements that are worrying, and especially they are worrying, not for me, but for people who are fighting at the front. Can you imagine how it is for them to hear that? But we see that he tends to propose the simple solutions to the complicated problems to his voters. And I think that's a dangerous strategy, because there is one thing when you are in electorate mode, right? And there is another thing when you really will have to solve this matter and solve this issue. And I do not think that it can be solved so quickly. President Zelensky, after that, invited Trump once again to come to Ukraine, because it's very easy to say abstractly, oh yeah, well, I will do this and that. And it turned out that people who visit Ukraine and see what Russia has done to our people, our country generally, they understand much more what it is about.
Right. And did you ever think you'd ever be in this kind of situation, that, when you were growing up in Ukraine, did you ever imagine that this would happen?
Mike, no one would ever imagine that would happen, I think in 2014, when the war actually started, everybody was thinking like never again after Second World War, right? And right now what we are seeing is that authoritarian regimes, they are really raising their heads all over the world, honestly. And there is not a good school, any school that can teach you to be a politician at war, mother at war, doctor at war. And we just have to do what is the most of our capability to make sure that we help our country and our people on the role that we are. And we are so grateful that we are not alone in this fight. And I can tell you there are two reasons why I'm able to sit here with you. The first reason is, of course, brave men and women of Ukraine who are fighting right now at the front. But the second reason is brave men and women of the democratic world who are standing with us and have been standing with us since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. This support allows us to go on and have a hope, like a fuel that we are running on, that we will win the war one day, and then we will be able to rebuild Ukraine, join EU, and at some point join NATO, of course.
Yes, of course. Well, Kira, hopefully we'll see you again soon, and thank you very much for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you, Mike, and glory to Ukraine.
Kira Rudik, Ukrainian MP there, of course.